All right, just before we start working with actual drawings in Visio 2007 here, or creating your own drawings, we're going to continue on the theme of just getting you familiarized with your surroundings. Something I'd like to talk to you about now is called the TaskPane. And the TaskPane is kind of context sensitive. It's going to show up over here on the right hand side of your screen, but depending on what you're doing with a drawing, the TaskPane is going to show you different options. Now, to have the TaskPane appear on your screen, there's a couple of different ways to do that. You can do it manually by going up to the View menu and then clicking on TaskPane, or by the keyboard holding down Control and pressing Function key 1. That's one way. I'm not going to turn it on quite yet, so I'll just click out here in the gray space. Another way is it will automatically launch depending on what you're doing. For example, if you're working on an org chart and you want to have a nice color combination, or a theme as we would call it, you might go up to the Themes button up here on the formatting toolbar, and then the TaskPane shows up with some options for you. So before we launch this TaskPane I'm talking about, let's just go up to the very first button on your standard toolbar here, the New button, and give it a click. So whatever the default is, it shows up here. We've got a blank drawing about to be created here. Now, if I want the TaskPane to show up, like I said, I could start working on various parts of my drawing and it may show up by default, or I can go up to the View menu. Let's do it now. Click View, and then we'll click on TaskPane. So you can see it squeezes my drawing over here to the left. And now by default, for me, I'm looking at theme colors. And down below you can see I've got built-in color schemes basically. So if I was working on a diagram, I could simply click on one of these themes to have those colors applied to my drawing. A really nice shortcut. I've also got theme effects down here if I wanted to use that. So different effects like shadows and borders and so on. Now I've also got a drop down up here where it says now Theme Effects. I can click that drop down. There's colors. I've got data graphics. I've got the reviewing TaskPane. So if I click on reviewing, for example, this is where if I was marking up a diagram and sending it off to somebody with feedback or requesting their feedback, and they would go in and add their 2 cents, I would get it back all marked up. And this is the reviewing TaskPane that I would use to show those markups and either accept them or reject them and so on. If I go to this drop down, you'll see there's some other choices. There's a clip art TaskPane. Research, if I'm going to be working with, for example, the speller, thesaurus, I want to look up words, that kind of thing. If I'm managing documents and I've got an outside source, for example, like a document management system, I've got document management, updates, and conflicts here as well. So these will sometimes just show up by default depending on what we're doing in our diagram, but it's good to know that you can always close it when you don't want it by clicking the close button. And if you do want it and it's not there, you can always go to View and click on TaskPane, or from the keyboard, remember you've got Control F1 as well. Alright, I'm just going to close up my TaskPane. I'm going to close this diagram that I've started. I haven't actually done anything, so it doesn't ask me to save anything. And I'm back where I started at the beginning of this lesson. Next, we're going to look at manipulating your toolbars and your menus to be exactly the way you need them to be to work efficiently in Visio.